This is MRN Out Loud, brought to you by Hercules Tires.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of MRN Out Loud. I'm Woody Cain. After a week off, the Xfinity Series is back in action this coming Friday night at Martinsville Speedway. We'll have that for you live here on the Motor Racing Network, as well as the Cup Series race on Saturday night. To that end, Justin Allgaier will join us. He won the last Xfinity race. That one was at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and he was runner-up last year at Martinsville. A little bit later on, our senior preview correspondent, William Byron, will be back with us to preview the race at Martinsville on the Cup side. It's all ahead on MRN Out Loud. Stay with us.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTires.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTires.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
Justin Allgaier is with us now. He drives the number 7 Camaros at Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series, the Atlanta winner, fresh off an off week, but I know he wanted to be on that dirt track at Bristol. Now you head to Martinsville, where you were runner-up last time we were there, and it seems like the calendar and the stats and everything are lining up for you. How do you feel?
Well, I feel a lot better right now than I did at the beginning of the season. Obviously, we fired off out of the gates at the beginning of 2021, and we were terrible. We fought just everything you could possibly come up with to fight. We fought it seemed like. So it's nice to be able to turn the season around. Obviously, to get to victory lane at Atlanta was awesome. That was the first time I've had Exalta and Echo Park on the car. So to take them to victory lane in the Echo Park 250 was obviously really special. You mentioned the dirt. I'm super bummed that the Xfinity Series didn't go to the dirt track at Bristol. You know, that's number one, what I grew up on, racing on dirt, but number two, not only did we not get the dirt race, but we also missed out on a great racetrack at Bristol Motor Speedway, right? Going from 2 races to 1. So that was super disappointing, just because I felt like we had a great shot to maybe take a victory home there, dirt or asphalt. So, we go into Martinsville, obviously Dash for Cash weekend. So, being able to qualify for that, huge thanks to Xfinity for what they do in that regard, as far as just reinvesting into the teams and into the organizations that support the series on a regular basis. And it means a lot to all of us. And then, as you mentioned, I finished second there last year. However, I think the 4 of us that are in the Dash for Cash, we finished 1, 2, 3, and AJ Allmendinger was leading the race and had a flat tire right towards the end and wasn't able to battle it out for a win. So I'm not sure if you could pick any 4 that have a better shot at going to Martinsville and going for that grandfather clock, but most importantly too, that Dash for Cash money.
Before we look ahead, let's look back a little bit. That Atlanta race, even though it was only a couple of weeks, it seems like longer than that now, but everybody was focused on the whole Noah Gragson and Daniel Hemrick scrap, and Truex was really good. And meanwhile, you were just, okay, you guys do that. I'll go on and win. I mean, did it kind of feel like y'all have your fun? I'm going to the victory lane now?
Honestly, that was one of the calmer races I feel like I've been able to be a part of for myself. We fired off right out of the box, and I felt like we were good. We weren't as good as we wanted to be, but we were good. But we made good changes all day, and that's really what it comes down to. With no practice, no qualifying, you have to fire off strong, but you also have to be really good on the back end with the changes. And pit crew were lights out. We gained spots on pit road every time, and we made adjustments to the car that ultimately helped propel us to having a better car. So, I think that was a big part of it. We got a gift when Martin spent on pit road. Obviously, that helped tremendously. But on the other hand, I felt really good about the fact that, as he came back through the field and got back to us at the end of the race, when he closed in the gap, we were able to kind of push a little bit harder those last 10 or 12 laps or so and kind of pull a little bit of a gap. And that was huge from a driver standpoint. Absolutely one of the bigger wins of my career, just for the simple fact that we executed all day perfectly. Things went the way we needed them to go. And that just those days don't happen very often.
No, they really don't. And you mentioned got a break there, but you've had some times too, you and almost anybody else who's raced, where you felt like you had the best car and it didn't work out for you for one reason or another. So that stuff kind of has a way of evening out. But looking ahead to Martinsville, the Cookout 250 is under the lights, and that's got to give you a little something extra there, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, Martinsville is obviously a great facility. I've been a huge fan of Martinsville long before the Xfinity Series went back there. I attempted my first truck race in Martinsville many moons ago. Darrell Waltrip was actually in that race. If that gives you an idea of how long ago I attempted a truck race at Martinsville.
Wow.
My dad and I, we used to go there as fans and walk through and be a part of that event just because we really enjoyed it. So, Martinsville's kind of always been on my list of racetracks that I've had circled. Having a little bit of Cup experience there didn't hurt anything. But on the other hand, last year, going back to Martinsville with an Xfinity Series car, having a good car, I think that's first and foremost. We had a great Camaro, and we were able to battle for a win late in the race, and ultimately lock our way into that final round at Phoenix, and do the things that we needed to do. So, I don't know what it looks like this time around. Under the lights is going to be extremely different. The track conditions are going to be different. The way you're going to race, the things you're going to see are going to be completely different. So I'm excited for that. I know they took the grass out as well. So I think a few of the guys are excited that there's no more grass in the infield. But how does that affect, kind of how we race? Not that it's really easy to get up on top of that curb, but that took some guys out the last couple of years, Cup and Xfinity. So, I'll be interested to see what happens there. But we got a beautiful race car. We've got the Fight Hunger Spark Change, Unilever, Walmart Plus car. So we got all the Unilever brands on the car with us, and it's going to be a great weekend, and really looking forward to getting to Martinsville under the lights on a Friday night. That just, to me, that takes me back to my my short track days growing up, running around home, where you race on a Friday night and it's under the lights. That to me is what racing's really all about.
I'm glad you mentioned the grass thing, because we saw at Atlanta your teammate got his car all torn up when he went off into the grass. I asked Joey Logano about it after the fact, and he said, good riddance to the grass at Martinsville. Why do we have it anywhere? Where do you come down on that debate? Because I know more tracks are starting to look at putting in that artificial turf.
Well, I'm disappointed that we're taking the grass out, to be perfectly honest with you. Only for the simple fact that our partner in Brandt Professional Agriculture, they have a turf division. And I would bet you that if a lot of these racetracks would call Brandt, they could probably fix a lot of their issues with their turf, and we wouldn't have the issues that we do have. But that's beside the point. I don't like torn up race cars. So I understand that if you're not going to use the tools that you have, I understand getting rid of it and putting artificial turf in. But, it's a tough balance. I think in some aspects, you pay a penalty for making a mistake. And sometimes I think you learn from those a lot more than if you get by with something, right? Just for example, you mentioned Josh Berry going through the grass at Atlanta and tearing the front of the car up. It's a bummer for that day for Josh, for sure, no question. But in the conversation post-Atlanta, the things that you would do differently, the things that you would change, those were important, vital pieces of knowledge that Josh learned, right? And he's going to take those into the rest of his racing career. And I think sometimes, especially with younger drivers, when you're bringing them up and through, if they can get by with something and there's no penalty for it, you don't necessarily learn the things you should or shouldn't do in the capacity that you do in those regards. So I understand both sides of it. From a team standpoint, it's great because you don't tear up a race car, right? That's the most expensive piece of what we do. So, you don't tear up a race car. But on the other hand, I think it does teach you valuable lessons when you do make mistakes like that.
Interesting note, another one about Martinsville. I know it's too soon for it to happen yet, but last week, Kyle Larson and I think Chris Buescher tested rain tires at Martinsville, not necessarily so you can go racing in a monsoon like maybe you did at the Roval, but so maybe on a day when it's kind of misty, you can get back a little quicker when it's not yet completely dry. What do you think about that concept?
Well, I'm not really sure what to think because I wasn't there and drove it, so I don't know how good it felt, right? But I was very encouraged by the tires that I saw. Obviously on social media, a lot of pictures were posted, and I personally didn't feel like that the rain tire that we currently have in our arsenal of tires from Goodyear would have worked on an oval scenario like that, right? And I was a little bit concerned. I'll be honest with you, I was nervous about that. So when I saw some of the I'm going to call them more like an intermediate tire that was on there. I'm encouraged by that, right? I think that was a good step in the right direction, and so the first reports were that it wasn't too bad. I didn't get to see any data or anything like that, but I'll be interested to see what that looks like when it actually comes to fruition if we get to that. But if you remember last year at Richmond, we had a doubleheader, and we kind of dominated both of those races. So I'm not a fan.
I bet you remember because you won them both.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of going to Richmond in the rain. I know that's one of the projected places. I'm not a fan of going there in the rain. So we can X Richmond off the list. Other than that, I think the plan will work.
It's going to be interesting to see how it develops for sure. I saw on social media you and your wife Ashley just celebrated your 15th wedding anniversary last month, and I'm curious if that feels like it's been 15 or did it just fly by? I mean, Harper Grace is growing like a weed. I saw her with you when you got to ring the bell at Junior Motorsports for winning Atlanta, and I did a double take like, my gosh, she's growing so fast right now. And you're about to become a two-time dad. With all the career stuff going on, the personal stuff doesn't slow down a bit, does it?
No, it doesn't, and I wouldn't change it for the world, though. I have an incredible family. My wife has been an amazing wife, and love the fact that we were able to celebrate 15 years. That's a huge accomplishment, and to do it and still be relatively young is even cooler for me. We got married at a super young age. I'm glad we waited on having kids. I feel like I would have not have been prepared at all whenever we first got married to have a child. But Harper's been incredible, and you mentioned it. She's growing like a weed, and with them not being at the racetrack, I think a lot of people get caught off guard because with them not being out on pit road, and you're used to seeing them. So the media and the fans got to watch her kind of grow from a baby all the way until about 5 or 6 years old, and now that she's 7, she's really not been at the racetrack a whole lot. So it's been fun to watch her grow. She's into all kinds of things on her own, and that's been fun to be a dad on, right, and to help support those things. You mentioned the fact that two-time dad come into May, Charlotte Race Week. To say to say I'm nervous is probably a little bit of an understatement. I'd rather be battling side by side or 3 wide at the end, coming to a checkered flag than not knowing what we're getting ready to get ourselves into with the second one. I like sleep a lot, so I'm not looking forward to that part of it. But we're not finding out what we're having either. So that's been a very interesting dynamic. I'm excited to find out if we're having a little boy or a little girl. So we're excited to get to that point, but not rushing anything along.
Well, you definitely don't want to be one of those internet memes of the reveal, the gender reveal gone bad, because they're everywhere right now. Don't do that. So I'm curious,
Right.
You mentioned you waited and you felt like you were a little more experienced as adults before you had Harper. So what would one-time dad go back and tell two-time dad now, or vice versa, as you get ready for your second? What have you learned that's going to help you this time around is what I'm trying to get at.
I think my biggest thing that I would take away from Harper and what I learned with her was don't rush the small things, right? Don't rush through, like, you want them to get to the point where they can sit up on their own. You want to get them to the point where they can crawl. You want to hit these milestones because as a society, you never want your kid to be behind, right? So you're always trying to push your children to do all these things and get there. And you want to make sure that they're developing the way they should, right? And you want to give them the tools and the resources that they need to develop. On the other hand, I think there's a lot of things that we rush through in those moments that you don't get to enjoy. And if I were to go back and tell myself, things that I know now before I had my first child, that would be the biggest thing. Is just don't rush the small things, enjoy every moment. And they're gifts from God, man. It truly changes your outlook on everything you do when you get in those moments and you're dealing with all the little things that they do as they're growing. So yeah, I'm excited to have a second one. It's going to sound a little odd. I'm kind of, fingers crossed, I'm kind of team girl. I'm hoping that we have another girl just because Harper's been amazing and I love being around her and seeing her personality. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I cannot believe she's already 7 years old. Maybe there's some magic. You're number 7. She's 7 years old. Maybe this is going to be the year for that championship. It feels kind of right that way. And starting off the way you have with the season, look a little bit further ahead for us. After Martinsville, you take a little bit of a break. Then you head to the high banks of Talladega. And shortly after that, the schedule really gets busy in terms of these off weekends kind of vanishing.
Yeah, our season this year is a little bit odd with the 2 off weekends and then Martinsville and then another off weekend. It isn't normally like that, right? And I think that's been a little bit unique, a little bit odd. But on the other hand, it's been nice, to kind of get through those first handful of races and especially when we struggle like we have, it's nice to hit the reset button, right? Get those 2 weeks off, let the guys have a little bit of a breather. We know that this summer is a brutal stretch, right? It always is. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. We're going to have these races where you're going to grind it out. And, that puts a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on the guys in the shop, to make sure that they have everything right and done and ready to go. And so this little break gives them a nice little time to kind of relax, spend time with some family. Then we can get started again and go after it. But, I'm probably not looking forward to Talladega as much as I should be, just because I know that Daytona didn't go like I wanted it to go. And, you never really know what's going to happen on these super speedways. But then after that, we've got a stretch of races that I really enjoy, right? And I really feel like are fun and the atmosphere and the way they race is a lot of fun. The other part that I'm encouraged by the longer we go, obviously with vaccinations and with, COVID being on the trend to being lower, which is obviously what we want. My hope is that we can get fans back at the racetrack more often. And obviously we want to keep them safe and keep them distance and keep protocols in place. But the sooner we can get race fans back to the racetrack, the more it'll feel like normal. And that's really what we all crave, right? It doesn't matter if we're talking about racing or just life in general. We all crave that normal that we had before this pandemic. And so, the longer we go, the more I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get some fans back at the racetrack. And that, if nothing else, makes me excited.
Absolutely. I'm 100% with you on that one. Justin, congratulations on the Atlanta win and pre-congratulations for becoming a 2-time dad, man. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it a lot.
There you go. That's Justin Allgaier. We'll take a quick break, come back, and then we'll get another preview for racing at Martinsville this weekend. Stay with us.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Martinsville's up first in this session, William, and you had a top 10 finish there last year, but it's still a tough old track, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Martinsville is always difficult. I feel like you've got to balance the entry to the corner to the how you turn the middle, obviously, and it's a challenge. So I enjoy it. I think it's a great challenge and makes it tough on the drivers to get around that place.
Looks like they dug up some of the grass and are kind of replacing it in a portion of the track. Tell folks how you think that might impact things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of interested to see how it is. I think, it won't really change much, obviously, on the racetrack, but maybe your visual cues are going to be a little different to start the race. So you're going to have to get used to, kind of looking at the concrete and kind of figuring out your marks of where to be. So that's always critical there, is trying to find some marks so you can get in that rhythm.
Well, that might make it tough with no practice or qualifying. First time you go in there, your landmark's gone, huh?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the first couple laps will be interesting, but I think once you kind of figure out what those things are, it'll get easier.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTires.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTires.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
That's all the time we've got on this week's edition of MRN Out Loud. We want to thank Justin Allgaier for joining us, as well as William Byron to preview the Xfinity and Cup Series races at the Paperclip in Virginia this coming weekend. Make sure you catch all the action live right here on the Motor Racing Network. We'll see you next week for another edition of MRN Out Loud.